Hello and welcome. I'm going to use the results of the opinion polls conducted in Russia by the Levada Center to cross-check how well the news headlines in the Western media describe the mood or the reality inside Russia. Last month there was a lot of speculation in the media about the effect of Prigozhin's mutiny, and in my last video, links below, I introduced you to Prigozhin, the man, and his relationship with Putin, and I gave you an overview of the origins of the Wagner Group. A month on, the opinion polls can help us putting things into perspective. At the time, the headlines seemed to suggest that the mutiny would weaken Mr. Putin's position and, to some extent, the government's. So let's look at the approval ratings for Mr. Putin and the government. There is no decline. However, the researchers noted that the interviews conducted on Saturday, June the 24th, the day of the failed military coup, the ratio of respondents who believed that things are going in the right direction in the country were 53% positive to 30% negative. But by June the 25th to the 28th, the mood had already recovered. The ratio was 62% positive to 21% negative. And the results for July are back to 66% of respondents believing that the country is moving in the right direction. These results suggest that the government enjoys a high level of support, and Prigozhin's rebellion had little effect on Mr. Putin's standing or reputation. This assessment is further supported by the fact that a weak government, or a fractured one, would have found difficult to pass amendments to the legislation that extends the military draft upper age limit to 30 years old, a measure which is likely to be unpopular, but not unpopular enough to be a threat to a government in a strong position. Nonetheless, Prigozhin's actions did have an impact. This article, published on the Levada Center website, points out that Mr. Prigozhin's popularity has suffered a sharp decline, and trust in Mr. Shoigu, the defense minister, has been dented. Prigozhin's vocal criticism of Mr. Shoigu in the last few months that culminated in the March for Justice seemed to have dealt a bit of a blow to Mr. Shoigu's political career and his prospects of advancing to the top job. Shortly after the start of the war, I began cross-checking statements in the Western media with the results of opinion polls conducted in Russia. And the results have consistently hinted at that, no matter what happens or who is involved, stability is of paramount importance to most Russians. For example, Prigozhin used to be popular, and at times he was praised by both the Russian media and the Kremlin as a true patriot. But once his march for justice was cast as a threat to order and stability, public opinion quickly turned against him. The Levada Center notes that there is some sympathy left for him among some groups, which suggests, to me, that no matter how much members of the public may agree or sympathize with someone, if supporting that person means a chance of chaos returning to Russia, the majority will opt to support the established order. The Levada Center also noted that the desire for the conflict to end is growing, as well as concerns over a possible direct confrontation with NATO. These two sentiments will put pressure on the political class to seek an end to the war. However, the Russian government doesn't like to negotiate from a weak position. The Russian army has intensified its attacks. The Russian army has attacked key infrastructure in Odessa, a major port on the Black Sea, and the grain port of Izmail on the Danube, close to the border with Romania. These attacks have occurred after the Black Sea Grain Initiative ended. The initiative lasted for about a year, and it allowed Ukraine to resume grain exports via the Black Sea. And in exchange, the UN promised to help facilitate exports of Russian food and fertilizer. Russia claims that the West has not fulfilled their part of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, and until the Russian Agricultural Bank is reconnected to SWIFT, imports of agricultural machinery and parts are allowed, and insurance restrictions are lifted, and port access for Russian ships and cargo improves, and Russian fertilizer companies regain access to their foreign assets, Russia is not going to rejoin the initiative. The US and the EU, according to media reports, claim that Russia's withdrawal from the initiative will cause food insecurity, and the subtext seemed to be that Russia is weaponizing food. What I can tell you is that according to the Chicago wheat futures, data collected from Yahoo, there was a spike in wheat prices around the time Russia walked away from the initiative, but since then prices have come down. And with regards to wheat shortages on the global market, according to Dmitry Patrushev, head of the Ministry of Agriculture, they are expecting a very good harvest in Russia and an increase in the exports. So, is it weaponizing food or just walking away from a deal that benefits Ukraine more than Russia, or simply ruthless economic calculus? After all, Russia has a lot of wheat to sell, you decide. To put things into perspective, according to the US Wheat Associates, the current price for a bushel of wheat is about $6.33. For comparison, in 2008, after a bad harvest in Russia, prices reached $13 per bushel, equivalent in purchasing power to about $18.42, and the cost of basic food staples shot up, and shortages of food did occur. Protests and riots erupted in Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Senegal, Mauritania, the Côte d'Ivoire, Egypt and Morocco, to name a few. Although accusations are flying around in the public arena, a bad harvest has much more of an impact on food security than any political agreement. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.